Hello and welcome to another brand new episode of Vision CA Career Talks.
Hi.
Investment banking happens to be one of the most sought after careers in India and worldwide. And the situation is no different among young chartered accountants. Today with me, we have Saloni Chaturvedi. Saloni has close to 5 years of experience in investment banking and also holds an MBA from the London Business School. Let us hear more about this incredible journey from Saloni herself. Saloni, a pleasure having you here today and welcome to our channel.
Thank you, Priya. Thank you for having me over. It's a pleasure to address young chartered accountants, and it's always a pleasure to have a conversation with them.
Thank you so much, Saloni. So let's start with your formative years. Can you tell me something about your formative years, your school, your college, and then why you chose to do chartered accountancy?
Sure. So I'm pretty much a Bombay girl. I think I did all my schooling in college from Mumbai. I went to Arya Vidya Mandir and unfortunately or fortunately I went to NM, which is a CA factory. So I think what happens is typically what happens with most of us is in India at least is that after your 10th you either choose between science, commerce and arts. And if you do end up taking commerce, at least back in the day, I think CA was the most obvious choice. So unfortunately, my CA journey wasn't exactly planned, but I'm glad how it's panning out to be. I think additionally, it also helps that you have a family member in the house who's a chartered accountant. So my dad is a chartered accountant and I've seen him work. So I understand the nature of the role and what it entails. So I just found it to be a fantastic degree to build your fundamentals. And I think that just added fuel to why I wanted to do a CA degree.
Thanks for sharing that journey, and I think it's pretty much the same story with everybody, that they take commerce.
Absolutely.
And CA becomes an obvious choice. But then what you do after that?
The bright kid. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
So let's go deeper into your journey.
Right.
Tell me, how would you describe your articleship? You did your articleship from a mid-size firm, and most students, they're confused with it, Big 4 or mid-size. So tell me, how was your articleship at a mid-size firm?
Right. So I deliberately chose to work at a mid-sized firm because a lot of my friends worked at the Big Fours, and while they had their own set of experiences which were phenomenal, what I felt they were lacking in was that they didn't have too much client interface, or the fact that they were just siloed in one particular area of workspace. For example, if you're doing an audit of a big corporate or listed corporate, if they were looking at say fixed assets for a particular year, they'd be doing that year after year. So I felt in a lot of ways the growth was limited, and it was very difficult for them to move around between teams as well. So after having spoken to a couple of my seniors, I chose to work at a mid-market audit firm, Hari Bhakti and Company. So I did my articleship in start audit. And I thoroughly enjoyed my journey, though I realized very early on that audit is not meant for me. But I think I learned a lot in those 2-3 years that I worked with Hari Bhakti. So a couple of things that I really wanted to bring up, that special instances in my internship that I now look back in time, is that it's actually the first time you taste corporate world, right? It's the first time you feel like a professional, you feel grown up, you feel like you've been given some kind of responsibility. So I think in that sense, it's great. What I would suggest CA students or aspiring chartered accountants to do is to take this platform and understand things beyond audit or beyond tax. For example, if you're going to like say a Pidilite and you are working with the accounts team, try to interact with like people from different teams, because you're spending close to 3 months at that place. Try networking within that firm, understand from them how it is to work like say in a treasury team, speak to somebody from the strategy team. So start building your networks at a very early stage. Another thing I wish I would have done in the past is network within my own firm. For example, I was in start audit, so I spent most of my time with my manager and with my teammates, which was great. But I wish at that point in time, had I gotten some insight, I would have loved to spend time with, say, someone from a tax team, understand what the nature of the role was in the tax team, maybe move on to TAS, like you have the Big 4 TAS teams, understand from them what it's like to work in TAS, what is to work like in, say, consulting. I think expose yourself to as many people as possible, talk to as many people as possible, because it just broadens your horizon. You understand what each role entails, and accordingly you can plan your career journey thereafter. So yeah, that's
Very much for highlighting that, Saloni, because we also, as mentors at Vision CA, keep on telling our mentees that if you are
right.
given a particular kind of work, don't just limit yourself there.
Look
Form
beyond.
groups of like-minded people and share as much as you can on a regular
Right.
basis, because it's not going to help you just to clear your exams, but tomorrow when you go into the job
World.
market, the
Yeah,
more skills you have, or even if you know something beyond your domain, it's going to be an added advantage. Like they say, knowledge never
absolutely.
goes waste. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
highlighting. One
Right.
apprehension many of our students have is that I didn't do my articleship from Big 4. Will it make a
Right.
difference to me once I qualify? And as somebody with more than 5 years of work ex now and an MBA too, do you think not having a Big 4 articleship experience or a rank in CA final or anyway in CA
Right.
is a hindrance in progress?
Okay. So I would like to answer this in two ways. Okay, first is from the job market perspective. Now, sadly, the job market works in a specific way, and it's getting overtly competitive as each day comes by. And it also depends the kind of roles you're targeting at. For example, if you're looking at an IB role, which is typically going to be a mid-office role, not even a front office, but a mid-office, like an analyst kind of role, or say you want to start working in a private equity fund at an analyst level or even a level below the analyst, or if you want to work in an MBB, your McKinsey, Bains and BCGs, then definitely a rank is an add-on and a Big 4 is an add-on. Having said that, I have seen a lot of people in my batch and batches senior make the transition into these elite firms without the Big 4s and without the ranks, and that is through an MBA then later on in their life. So the job market does function in a certain way, yes, and it is a great add-on on your CV if you are from a Big 4 and if you have a rank. But having said that, even if you don't have these credentials on your CV, you can probably make a cut through it. It'll be tougher. There will be possibly a delay in you achieving your goal, but it is possible. It is very much doable. You can get the right kind of internships. See, at the end of the day, it's all about making that one connect. Okay, and these kind of roles that we speak of, at least I can speak for IB because I'm well versed with the IB industry. It's all about networking and the kind of connects you make. So if you go, for example, for a conference and you probably speak to someone, say from Bank of America, and he's a VP level executive and he really likes conversing with you. He knows you have the technical skill sets as a chartered accountant. Whether you clear in the first attempt or the third attempt, you are technically sound. And in fact, I would put it this way, because you've gone through the attempts, you've gone through the grinding of failure, you understand, you value your degree a lot more, A, and B, you also understand the realities of life. So you're able to handle different situations in a better way. So you're more poised, you're more balanced as a person. So I think in some ways use that to your advantage. And it's just about making that right connection, like I said. And he may just like interacting with you. Say, for example, you're passionate about the world economy, or you say you're passionate about, say, the economic reforms that India is coming up with, and you have a discussion with him on it, and he likes you. He may just call you in for an interview. So it's there are ways and means for you to get into the system. You don't necessarily need a Big 4. No. Yeah.
So hearing all of that and coming from a person who has experience in that field, I think these advices carry a lot more weight. So that will clear a lot of apprehensions that our mentees have. So moving
Hey, just
on.
sorry, Priya, just to add another thing to this, what you're
Sure.
saying, um, I just have one thing to say to most aspiring chartered accountants is that when you sit down to plan your career, especially like your entry level job, uh, focus more on the journey rather than the role, the first role that you get. For example, I'll just give you a very random example. I don't know if it resonates with you guys or not. Say, for example, that you're a chartered accountant, but you want to enter the VC space. Okay, now there is this is not a very conventional CA trajectory that most people take. But you say you're very like passionate about tech, or you're very passionate about going on the investing side, and you want to like be a part of the startup ecosystem, but you know that with the Big 4 or even with, say, a mid-sized CA firm, VC seems like a very far off dream. it may seem so in the immediate 1 or 2 years, but not maybe in 3 or 4 years. So what you should do is you should get the right kind of internships. Try working at a small time startup, and one thing leads to another, and then you build momentum in that journey, and then probably you can take a transition into a VC. So you have all these opportunities which are available to you. You should just be aware of how to take what kind of steps to take to get till there. And for that, you need to talk to people and do your research. Yeah.
Thank you for bringing up that point, because I think this is some apprehension that most of the people would have, that they want to be at point X, but they want to know what the backward step should be so that they reach there.
Right.
And as you have put it very simply, the key to that is good networking and taking in insights from all the people who have walked that journey earlier. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Saloni. I think that's going to be a great value add to our audience. So now we move on to your post-qualification journey. After you qualified, you moved on to a mid-market or mid-size IB firm, and you were there for around 4 years before you went to do your MBA. Can you tell me what were your experiences there, and how did a typical day at work look like for you?
Right. So I started off as an analyst, and I think that's the most infamous role that you can start off with in IB, because it's all grunt work. You have lots and lots of like documentation to do. So it's far from the glamorous IB roles that you hear of, but I guess you have to start somewhere. So as an analyst, your role is more of like preparing the information memorandums, calculating all your ratios, doing your financial technical due diligence, and probably just helping out with financial modeling. So it's not a very front-facing, client-facing role. It's more about just sitting on the desk and preparing the documents and seeing that things are in place, helping your seniors out. But then as you graduate to an associate level role, it's a little bit of a mid-office role. You do get some client interface. You start working with investors, you start working with fund people, you start working with bankers. So you definitely see like an improvement in your role, but it's still in a lot of ways you're focusing primarily on execution of the transaction. Okay. And it's great in a lot of ways, because you build a strong base, you build your fundamentals, you understand like different metrics that run an industry. You get a flavor of working in different industries. You get to meet a lot of people. So it's a lot of personal development and a lot of growth. But the real fun is when you start like actually going out there, you work on business development. When you actually run the transaction, which is what I'm doing now. So coming back to your question, what a typical day look like? Honestly, there's no fixed schedule, because it's not a 9 to 5 job. Some days you're literally stretched and you work till 12 because you have to close the transaction. You have like deadlines to adhere to. Some days it's a very like relaxed day where you'll not have any work because the client hasn't given you work. So work ebbs and flows. Typically speaking, if I have to divide my day, back then, I would say like 60% of my time would go into execution, which would mean like preparing the documents, collating all the information, answering all the queries from the institutions, and just coordinating with different people. And a little bit of it will also go into following up and doing some BD work for my senior, or collaborating with different channel partners to like analyze the potential deals. So I think that's what my day would look like typically then. Yeah.
Certainly for elaborating on that. And as you said, like initially your work is not going to be very glamorous. You have to do the grunt work, as you call it. But I think one should never be cribbing about that, because that offers you, as you just put it, a lot of opportunities to learn about the dynamics of how the industry functions. So even as articles or as freshers, we may get very basic level work, but there's an opportunity to learn in everything, and if you want to learn something, you'll definitely find a way to learn it. So thank you for telling us that. It's going to be very serve as a predecessor or for all our audience there, that be ready to do basic work, but you'll have a lot of learnings from there.
Everyone starts that way, right? Look at even the top level who have made it big in the industry. They all have started from a very modest articleship or a very modest job, and then they've grown from up the ladder. So it's just about that one window of opportunity that will open up for you, and until then you just keep building yourself as a professional. And I'm sure, like, if you're passionate about something, you definitely will find an opportunity and things will work out, like, eventually.
The same goes for articles as well, because we often crib, maybe sometimes in a jocular sense or sometimes really, that we are exploited and such things, but those are where the actual learnings are, as you just put it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So can you tell me some ways, you have already touched upon this earlier, but some ways into which chartered accountants, fresher chartered accountants, can get into IB roles like you did?
Okay, so I think if we look at campus recruitment, it's primarily for people who have gotten a rank or who cleared in the first or maybe second attempt. I think that's where the campus recruitment is actually essential. And if I've seen the general roles also that come on campus, most of them are either your basic accounting taxation roles, or then if you have like your FMCGs come in there and the FP&A team, or then and then the very elite roles for the MBBs are only, I think, applicable to rankers. And then you also have like a few mid office, like I remember during my time, Deutsche and a couple of other banks had come in, but they were like very few roles and it was very competitive. And IB is always going to be competitive. Okay, like it's one it I mean it's been the nature of the industry. That's how the industry functions. You don't have too many people in the team. It's a small team. You don't have very high attrition rate because people stick around, at least in a boutique firm. And there are very, like, for example, even if I'm working in, even if I'm talking of, say, a Bank of America or a Goldman Sachs, you can count the number of analysts and they'll be like a single digit or max like 7 to 8 analysts that you'll be having. You also compete with people from engineering colleges, especially the IITs, because they're the major feeder colleges for these investment banking roles. So I think the right approach would be probably to start from the industrial training process. Like, you have this concept of industrial training, right? I highly recommend people to take it up seriously. So during my time as well, I had interviewed with Edelweiss, say for example, and I was getting into an FP&A role there. Like, they were giving me an accounting role at that point in time, but I did not look further on. And I said, no, I don't want to do an accounting role. But in hindsight, had I taken up that accounting role, it would have been a foot in the door kind of policy. So, you start small, get into the system, and then once they like you, it's not impossible to shift into a more credible role. So I'm just saying, this is an example. So similarly, I've seen people work in even Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan in a very back office, non-glamorous role in their industrial training days. But once you get into the system, you network with the right people, you can obviously find ways to enter the mainstream roles. So I think industrial training is a great opportunity where they can try to explore this option. Even if they miss the bus during the industrial training, as a fresher, don't rely on campus recruitments only for your job. Look out there. Please look at LinkedIn. There are a lot of chartered accountants working in mid-market investment banking firms. Reach out to them. If not for a full-time opportunity, start with an internship. Like, start small. That's my takeaway. Like, that's something I want to really pass on to you all. It may seem silly, but trust me, doing an internship from a right place is far better than getting a full-time job at a very average place, because you have to look at your career as a journey, not a sprint. It's not about that. It's not just about the first job that you get and the first paycheck you get. It's more about your passion as well, and what you want to do and how you want to make your career look like. So start small, get the internships, and then you can probably move on. Because see, if you have the right relevant work ex, nobody will say no to you. Then the CA degree won't matter. Then it wouldn't matter if you're a second attempt or third attempt CA. Because even I recruit for my firm, and if I have an option between a fresher who has no relevant experience but a ranker versus somebody who's, say, taken 2 internships but maybe not a ranker, I would prefer the second option over the first option. So build your resume with the right kind of internships. Yeah.
So very valuable insights, given that you have a lot of experience in this field again. And I really like the analogy that this is a sprint. This is not a sprint, but this is kind of a marathon. And you have to look at all of these roles that you take up as small parts of the bigger picture. So it's important not to get disheartened if you don't get anything immediately, but work towards achieving that bigger milestone that you want. Okay, so we'll move on to after your 4 years of work at an investment banking firm, you chose to do an MBA. Can you tell me why an MBA, and more importantly, why a global MBA?
Right. So I think a couple of reasons factored in for my MBA journey. Firstly, the nature of my role. If you typically look at investment banking roles, associate level onwards, it's a more of an MBA league because you'll be either interacting with IIM grads or ISB IIM grads. Okay, only the elite colleges again make the cut for an IB related role. So in a lot of ways, I felt that if I want to push my career upwards, I need an MBA. So that's where the MBA came into picture. It's not like the MBA will give you some technical skill sets which you already didn't have, but like I said, the job industry works in a certain way. So to get yourself to that level, you need the MBA. It's a prerequisite in IB. And regarding why an international MBA, so I really felt that all through my years, I had a very domestic experience, like through my school, college, even my work, because we typically have domestic clients, and I wanted to see what it's like to work in a developed economy, and that's why London came into picture because London is a financial hub, and I wanted to see what it's like to work in a developed country and a developed financial market because they have very different products than us, especially in the IB space. They're very mature, and that's where I chose an international MBA. And I also, at the end of the day, it's not like I wanted to settle in London. I wanted to come back to India. So the MBA also had to have a strong brand presence in India. So LBS fortunately does have a very strong alumni network here. We have a couple of alumni related events that keep happening from time to time. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for me not only to get international experience, but when I come back to the firm, I can probably like collaborate with people from LBS itself and expand the suite of services, like take up on a more like senior leadership role within the firm. Like right now I'm trying to like branch out into a new segment, so I'm collaborating with people there, building new channel partners. So in that sense, in the terms of networking and the exposure and the credibility that you get, the MBA really helps you. I did apply to if someone I did apply to ISB as well, and I had gotten in, but I chose LBS. So if someone wants to ask me questions on how to go about the application process, happy to help you there.
So we also have another venture of ours that's called Vision IIMs, and we plan to cover different aspects of MBAs over there. We've already started covering about the IIMs, so we'll be happy to hold a separate session there with you about MBAs abroad.
Right.
I'll definitely put that on my to-do list sometime in the future. Okay, so can you describe, you did tell me a bit about your journey at LBS, that it gave you a very international exposure. But if you can elaborate more on how your 2 years at LBS looked like.
I think they were the most action-packed, fantastic 2 years that I could have ever had in my life. And my primary reason for doing the MBA was also more of a personal reason than a professional reason. Like, of course, I needed the MBA to go up the ladder in my career. But I think for me, the MBA in terms of personal development played a very big role because when you put yourself out there, you're interacting with a very diverse community. You suddenly open up. Your perspective opens up tremendously. You learn from so many people, and that learning is invaluable. Plus, I took up a couple of leadership roles within LPS. I was a co-lead of the India Club. I was also the treasurer of a couple of other events. So I think all these other school activities that I took up really helped me hone my leadership skills, which I think is very important if you want to grow up the ladder. See, at the end of the day, when after spending 6 or 7 years in an industry, you pick up the technical skill sets because you learn on the job. And I'm sure all of us are smart enough to read up and pick up things. But what really differentiates you from your colleague would be probably your soft skills. And soft skills is something that not everybody can learn. And I think the MBA in that sense serves as a great platform for you to build on your soft skills, how you manage teams, how you manage people, how you manage tricky situations in an organization. These are the kind of things that you actually need to learn and get better at if you want to aim at a senior level or a C-suite executive role in a company. So these are the things that I focused on typically in my MBA journey. I tried to like try out as many new things as possible. And of course, it's London. So I'm very fond of like theater and arts. So it was a great opportunity for me to like, check out a few Broadway shows, try new restaurants. So it's all about exploring, identifying different dimensions to your personality, and just trying out something different. Just another thing, Priya, that I'd like to
Sure.
add. So a lot of people ask me this question as to, what are your two takeaways from B school? And I don't want this to sound like a textbook answer, but I always tell people that the two things I learned from business school, or the two things that business school gave me, was one, tremendous amount of self-confidence, because it adds, the minute you say you're from LPS, it just adds credibility to your name. And B, it gave me a growth mindset. So I think these two qualities, if you have like self-confidence and if you have a growth mindset, then you can just figure out things in life. Like you don't get bogged down with minor setbacks, etc. So yeah.
That was a very valuable journey that insights about your journey that you shared, and especially where you highlighted that soft skills are ultimately going to take you the longer way in life. I think soft skills are something that you cannot develop overnight. And at higher roles, as you said, they are going to be the driver of your progress. So that's another call for all our mentees to start working on your soft skills as soon as you can. And as Saloni rightly said, explore different dimensions of your personality. You never know what experience there will help you in your career path. So we move on to your post-MBA journey now. Post-MBA, you have become a VP at the same IB firm that you were at earlier. Can you describe how a typical workday looks like now? And how has it changed since you were an associate or an analyst then?
Right. So I think the first thing that happens to you when you do an MBA is that there's this tremendous like expectation from you that you will deliver. So there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of responsibility that comes on you, because like I said earlier, you were earlier just handling probably the execution aspect of deals, but now you're actually running the transaction, which means you have a team, you have a team like working like for you, who will be doing all the documentation. You're the front runner, you're the face of the firm, you're representing the firm to different institutions, to different funds. You're also handling the clients, so you're balancing out the relationships between the clients and the institutions. So it's more of that than rather than just sitting and documenting things. So you need to be technically sound, you need to be diplomatic, because you're dealing with multiple stakeholders, and at the same time you need to take accountability and responsibility, because if something doesn't work out the way it's panned out, you are the one who has to take onus for it. So it's a lot of mix and match of these things. You're handling multiple transactions at one go. So currently I'm running 5 live deals. So it's a lot of work. So there's never a time I think that I have free. In fact, I'm working maybe on weekends now. So very hectic, but a lot of fun, because you actually get the taste and flavor of IB now, because you're involved in the negotiations, you're working on the term sheets, and you can actually make a difference. Like at the end of the day, when we all work, we want our actions to have some kind of output, right? That's what gives us this kind of, it's very gratifying to see the impact of your actions. We all want to have an impact-led role, and that's where this role comes in, because you actually create an impact, like because you are so involved in the transaction that you can see, okay, I've put in 6 months of time into this transaction has closed, and oh yeah, my client has been able to raise fund, or oh, my client has been able to like structure it in this way. So you can actually see the results of what you do, and that's very gratifying.
So as you had said earlier, you started off with very ground level work, and now you have moved on to actually running the entire business that occurs in IB. So this is another live example that it takes time, but then gradually you reach where you want to and what you have planned for yourself.
Mind you guys, I'm not a first attempt pass out. I took 2 attempts to clear my final CA, and it was an absolute nightmare for me as well. But all hell doesn't break loose once you fail. you get past it. It's not the worst thing that has happened to you. Most people go through this phase, and you come out of it, and you can do great things for yourself. So life doesn't stop there. I just wanted to put this across.
Yes, that's really very much needed, because sadly the situations around are such that if people flunk an attempt, they are just bogged down by it. And motivation coming from somebody like you who has achieved a lot is indeed going to boost up their spirits. So now we spoke a lot about work and academics. You already told me that you enjoy a lot of theater. Tell me,
Right.
what do you do outside work, and how does that help you in your career?
Right. So I think I've always tried to keep a good work-life balance. I think since my school days. So I've always been into dancing. So I'm a trained jazz and ballet dancer. And even now, like during the pandemic, like I just took up belly dancing class. So I think it's just fun to always try out different things that excite you in life. One of the offshoots of me not clearing CA was that I was also very upset and depressed, and I didn't know what to do with that pent up frustration. So I started baking, and I also bake. So I'm a home baker. I read a lot. So yeah, I think between baking, reading, hanging out, I mean, spending time with my friends and family. Yeah, I think that's what I pretty much do on most weekends. Yeah. But I think it really helps to have some kind of passion and some hobby outside of work, because you can connect with like-minded people. Like Priya said, it's important to connect with like-minded people. So you can form your own separate group, say which is into baking, or you can join a reading club. And if not that, it just helps you to unwind and just completely tune out and just focus on yourself. It's just a great thing to have something outside of work to do. It builds on your personality.
Personality is something that probably just focusing too much into academics will not give you that much. And
Absolutely not. It will definitely give you a past result. I mean, you definitely clear your exams, but life, like I said, life doesn't end there. In fact, life starts there. You start your corporate life right after you clear CA, and you have the degree, but you also need to have other life skill sets to take you ahead.
absolutely, and we at Vision say often say this, that there's going to be a time when everybody has the degree. The differentiators are going to be the experiences that you learn from extracurriculars. So that's why it's
Right.
very important to have a hobby, and most importantly, not to break a hobby that you have had since childhood just because you're into CA. If you're passionate
Absolutely.
about something, like Saloni was about dance, you will find, some time, maybe half an hour or 1 hour in a week also is enough just to keep that
Right.
hobby alive. And now when it's virtual, there's no dearth of opportunities to connect with like-minded people, uh,
Right.
to share similar passions as you.
Absolutely. And I think you can take out time. I remember my CA days where I was in the same rut as most people are. Like you have this clockwork like schedule. You are balancing your articleship, your college, your CA classes. So there's literally no time for you to do anything beyond the uh beyond beyond like your CA stuff. But going back in time, I feel like I could have been better at managing my time, or I could have made that very conscious effort of taking out some time. Maybe not a lot, maybe just an hour in the week, maybe just 2 hours in the week, but definitely I could have done it. But I just didn't know how to manage my time better. I didn't have that kind of foresightedness then. I would put it this way. I was just stuck in that same cycle that most people are. And once you're stuck in that cycle, you have a very narrow minded vision, and you're just stuck. Yeah, you're just stuck then. Yeah.
So thanks for calling that out. And I hope if anybody in the audience is stuck in that, will make conscious efforts to come out of that and devote at least an hour a week
Just have
to
fun,
following
guys.
your passions.
Remember that you're a teenager. Remember that you're in your early 20s. Um, it may seem like it's a very stressful process. I know those 4 5 years are an absolute stress, and CA is a very consuming degree. But just remember that you have that child. Like, don't kill that inner child in you. Just have fun. Do things that make you happy as well. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Like all work and work makes Jack a dull boy. And
Yes.
I think that's extremely relevant to our CA journeys as well. Okay, thank you for sharing those insights. And I have one last question for you. So most of the
So,
audience, as I always say, are young chartered accountants and CAs who are students who are doing the articleship. If you were at that age, what would be that one advice that you would have given your younger self and you would
take
like
a
to share with our audience?
take a chill pill, guys. Take a chill pill. Like, be focused. It's great to have aspirations. It's great to have the dedication towards CA, but just take a chill pill. Cut yourself some slack. You are already doing whatever you can possibly do to make it work. Focus on yourself. Enjoy, like, start loving yourself. Enjoy your time. And I think, yeah, that's about it. I think I've given enough advice throughout this conversation, so I don't want to bore you guys a lot. But I just want to tell you all that just have fun. Don't take it as just a project, take it as a part of your journey. And if you look at the bigger picture, I think it'll get better. Yeah,
Yes.
it gets better with time.
That was really nice of you, Saloni, and I had a really great conversation with you. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for us.
Thank you, Priya, for having me over and for being such a fantastic host. I hope this conversation helps you guys. And if you ever want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, I think Priya would have my LinkedIn link as all like attached, so you all can get in touch with me, and I'm happy to help you guys.
Thank you very much, Saloni, and guys, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with everybody who you think will benefit. Until next time, bye bye.